Chapter 8. Vessels. St. Gabriella's Catholic School, Miami, Florida, 1958. Father Charles Harlan walks down the open dormitory of the House of the Shunned, escorted by two of the church's priests. On the bed lie dozens of men, women, and children of all ages and races. Some sleep peacefully, while others thrash violently and must be restrained by nuns and priests. Father Zachariah Thomas, one of the accompanying priests for the visit, surveys the room with sadness. "Satan has afflicted so many," he whispers. "Every day more are brought into our care. His hellhounds are widespread and never let up on their prey." 1/3 of the military in heaven followed him. Their numbers are in the millions, Father Harlan says. "We cannot despair. We must continue to locate those who are possessed and expel the evil from their bodies. We cannot let Satan claim victory over a single stolen soul." They approach the bed of a severely afflicted young woman in her teens. Her eyes are bloodshot, and her skin is pale and cold to the touch. Saliva drools from her mouth as she growls at the priests. "Free me this instant," a deep male voice booms from the young Lydia Cornwell. "You have interrupted my mission. You cannot continue to hold us against our will. I shall break free from these feeble restraints and slaughter every last one of you monkeys." She shifts uncomfortably as the glyphs drawn on her arms, legs, and neck sear her flesh. A devil calling itself Cur inhabits this poor girl. For 3 months we have tried with no success to alleviate her of this burden. Cur is stronger than any possessing spirit we have encountered before. Perhaps he is truly an important figure in the hellish hierarchy. "Those markings," Father Aaron Wynn asks, staring at the symbols drawn onto the girl. "How do those bind her?" Lydia snaps at Father Wynn as he gets too close to her in his inspection of the glyphs. He nearly falls, jumping backwards in fright. The devil laughs loudly, shaking the bed with the girl's possessed arms. "They are command sigils, written in Yazatan, the language of the angels. We have kept these and many other tools used against the forces of evil under our protection for centuries within this order," Father Harlan says. "So it is true, the shunned house is run by the heart of God?" Father Wynn asks. Father Harlan nods, walking past Lydia to another of the afflicted. "What is this mission the devils often speak of?" Father Thomas asks. "Do you have any details further than their vague references? A mission to the spawn of hell such as this cannot bode well for humanity. We have gotten some of them to become reluctantly forthcoming with their information using different sigils," Father Harlan says coldly. "Torture and interrogation of innocents possessed by devils? Father, how can you do such atrocities in the name of our Lord?" Father Wynn is outraged, taking a step backwards in disgust and shock. "The damage we inflict through Yazatan sigils is felt by the devil's soul, and does no damage to the body or the spirit of the human they keep enslaved. Even the burns sustained are not lasting. The information the devils contain is far too crucial for us to not use any means necessary to obtain it. Take this devil, for instance," he says, pointing to a muscular, bearded man. "He calls himself Nemen. He was once a member of the 4th Choir under the command of General Barachil. In those days he was known as Nemeniel, as all of the Yazata were Elohim, or of God. When banished, or in rebellion, they tend to drop the El suffix, severing their association with God. Nemeniel, as well as Keheriel," he pauses, pointing back to Lydia, "defected during an event called the Second War of Falling, to join with their hero and grand rebel, General Sataniel." "Second War? There was a war before Satan was cast out of heaven? You learned this from the devils?" Father Wynn asks in disbelief. Father Harlan nods and continues with his story. Nemen begins to laugh. "You ignorant monkeys! Your knowledge of anything beyond your own feeble lives is sickening. You each focus on your own meaningless lives while thousands of other worlds interact and know greater truths. How could we ever look on you as equals as the Creator wished? You are not our equals, you are beneath us. Father Harlan removes a quill and a small jar of ink from his robe. With expert speed and finesse, he paints a symbol across the forehead of the possessed man and sends him into a deep slumber. I apologize. He tends to become agitated when I point out all of the information he gave up that he was not supposed to. The devils have issues with their pride, along with many other vices, I might add. You asked about their mission, yes? The other priests hang on his words, having already had their minds shaken by all this new information to process. Every single human alive is protected by a Fravacious. They are a special class of warrior angels just below the archangels, or as they refer to themselves, the seraphim. A single Fravacious is tasked with protecting a specific amount of humans from their birth until their name appears in the Book of Death. The fifth choir is tasked with relaying this information to each Fravacious, so as to not interfere with the duties of the Reapers when they come to collect their souls. General Soriel oversees the Reapers in the fifth choir, and even the devils seem to be afraid of the mere mention of his name. Anyways, according to the devils, because humans multiply unchecked far quicker than the Reapers can collect, the capacity of the Fravacious to protect them until their name is written in the book is diminished. The Guardians are spread thin and often unable to defend against covert attacks directly on the souls of the humans they are tasked with protecting. Father Harlan urges his guests to sit beside him on metal folding chairs, beside an empty bed, while he continues. After the Second War of Falling, the Devilnae were stripped of their physical existence, and as a result are only able to exist in our world inside of host bodies. Possession, Father Harlan says, connecting the pieces in his mind. So why are so many people becoming possessed lately? Are the devils trying to amass an army? Not all humans can be possessed. The devils must locate suitable vessels, but these humans are protected not by a typical Fravacious. A human that can become possessed is protected by a Seraphim Fravacious. With much more fierce guardians protecting them, these humans were not meant to fall into the hands of evil. As you can see, however, this has not been the case. Devils like Kerr and Nemen have been using their vessels to assassinate the Fravacious, protecting other vessel-ready humans, so that their comrades will have a greater chance at occupying their bodies. We must find a way to stop this scheme, Father Thomas urges. If everyone that can become possessed by a devil is made vulnerable, the resulting attack on humanity would be catastrophic. Father Harlan stands as several of his priests surround them. One of them is a young Gerald Williams. You misunderstand my intentions for inviting you here, Father. I did not send for you seeking the aid of the Church as I claimed. I must admit, I have been deceptive. The priests surrounding them begin to weave intricate hand signs and chant a monotone prayer that doubles as an invocative magic. The Church was already aware of all the information that I presented you. I was merely testing you to see how truthful you would be. Seeing that you tried to play ignorant with me, I now know that your intentions in coming here were not innocent. The heart of God learned all of this some time ago. It was through the Church's access to restricted texts and scrolls that the devils have been able to locate so many of their vessels and draw out their Fravacious protectors for execution. I knew that they would not hesitate to send an envoy here once they learned that I had gathered so many of their soldiers together. The Church would do anything they could to stop their pawns from being removed from the game board. You bastard! Father Thomas screams, spittle leaping from his lips. You tricked us! Deception would not be successful without trickery. So yes, I am pleased that my plan has worked. The priests finished their spell, binding the two men with magical chains. The grand plan will not stop, even with our deaths. We will succeed. We are far too many for you to handle. Nearly all of the Fravacious protecting vessel-ready humans are dead. Our forces will continue to flood this world, taking your bodies for our own. We will ride your corpses until they are dry, and move on to the next. You will never stop us, Father Thomas screams. Take them to a protected room and I will join you shortly. They surely possess information that will be vital to our efforts, Father Harlan says. Gerald nods, but not without comment. Please do not say possess in a positive manner. That word has forever been tainted by these devils. Father Harlan smiles. Agree, but do not despair, for we will win this war eventually. We have the might of God on our side. Stinking monkeys! The devil cur growls from the throat of Lydia. You cannot hold us. We will break free from your bondage and slaughter you. Father Harlan tries to ignore the demoniac and focus on the two captured high-profile devils. Kerr does not cease howling, doing his best to distract the priest. You are far in over your head, Father Wynne says calmly. Eerily, the devil maintains the demeanor of his long-deceased host. Chosen for his position within the church, the priest's confident charm and level head under pressure has been adopted by the devil inside. Do you really wish to throw your life away like this? You will become a heretic and be excommunicated if you are lucky. I'm not worried. My loyalty is to God, not to a corruptible church. All things are corruptible, Father Wynne smiles, revealing his elongated fangs. Even your God. Father Harlan tenses with anger, wanting nothing more than to strike the cocky devil, but restrains himself. Giving in to his anger will only lower him and make his ability to exercise weakened. He is your creator as well, devil. He is God of all things, good and evil. Is a baker the god of the kitchen, a construction worker god of his buildings? Creating something does not make you its god. It's no surprise to me that your beliefs have cut you off from paradise. Closer to God than any other beings, you should have greater respect. The priest begins to laugh. Here is free will. Now do exactly as I say and worship me without question. That is the God that you demand I praise and sing songs of worship to. If my allegiance is forced, how is it legitimate? That resentment is exactly why many of us join the rebellion. Your vanity is astounding. We must believe that God's judgment is greater than our own. Keep preaching that nonsense, Father. Be the good little soldier of faith. You will be rewarded with gold and jewels and chocolate chip cookies. Gerald, will you please bring me my bag? Father Harlan asks. His assistant nods, quickly leaving. You do not frighten me, holy man. That is fine. Fear is not required for your exorcism. The devil swallows hard, looking uneasily to his companion, who has become quiet over the past few minutes. He is all bluster, Father Thomas reassures. Our vessels have been warded against exorcism. Do not let him intimidate you. Gerald returns with Father Harlan's bag. The man removes an amber bottle of oil. Oh no, he has oil, Father Thomas mocks. Planning to cook us some lunch? Speaking aloud a special prayer, Father Harlan begins to anoint the heads of the devils with oil. When nothing happens, the creatures begin to laugh hysterically. Did you honestly think that we would not have prepared for moments such as these? We're not petty amateurs. We were both ranking Seraphim officers. You have no sense of the situation that you've immersed yourself within, Father Thomas says. Allow me to introduce ourselves properly. I am Tyran, formerly tyrannial of the 12th Choir. My companion now goes by Chati, but he was better known in those days as Lieutenant Chatiel of the 3rd Choir. Ignoring the devils, Father Harlan prays aloud and removes a bottle of thrice-blessed water. It takes everything Gerald has to keep from trembling after hearing the titles of the devils before him. A lieutenant in a Yazatam choir is the second strongest member of their unit. That means that in his day the devil possessing Father Wynne was one of the 24 strongest of all the Yazata. Father Harlan begins to splash the holy water on the devils, but this only causes them to laugh louder than ever. Your water is no more holy than toilet water. Every single being such as I urinates in the communal waters of each church we visit. It's a long-standing tradition, Tyran says, grinning widely. Gerald looks to his mentor, doubt growing within the young man. Father Harlan senses his unease and fear and smiles, trying his best to comfort him. Anything else left in your bag of tricks? Tyran asks. Behind them, Kerr, Neman, and the other patients join in the laughter. Father Harlan withdraws a small dagger from his bag, engraved with a prayer of repentance. He turns to speak with the other volunteers. Please make sure the patients are properly restrained. You don't have the guts, Tyrion growls. Sometimes cleansing fire is the only option. Chati sees Tyrion begin to sweat with nervousness. Don't you dare let him bully you. He would not kill us. Who else is involved in your plans? Father Harlan asks. The prayer inscribed on the dagger begins to glow brightly as if becoming heated. More players than you could ever hope to contain. We number like grains of sand in the desert. We're in place in every position of power around the world. This war was lost to you, generations before you were ever even conceived. Humor me. Give me some of the names of these important players. We are not your informants. You will never intimidate anything useful from our lips. Father Harlan slowly runs his blade across Chati's thigh, barely cutting into the flesh. The enchantments of the weapon fill the devil with agony. A second and third cut are drawn over his leg, parallel to the first. Damned ape! I will kill you and everyone you have ever cared about. Names, Father Harlan repeats, inflicting more pain. You can say farewell to any moment of happiness or peace for the rest of your short life. I will see to it personally that your existence becomes hell. Behind Father Harlan, Gerald mixes together multiple powders and oils into a bowl. The attention of the devils are drawn to the young man as he stirs. What is your boy doing? Tyrion asks. Father Harlan cuts Chati again with his dagger. Do not concern yourself with him. Chati screams in agony. Damn you! I'm finished, Father, Gerald says, stepping away from the bowl and leaving it for the priest to take. Nodding, Father Harlan takes the bowl. Good boy. Now fetch the vermin. The eyes of the devils widen simultaneously. Vermin? They whisper. Exorcised into the body of a small brown rat, the devil Chati is set upon the table inside of a wire cage. The rat paces hurriedly, looking for any means of escape. Your turn, Father Harlan says to Tyrion. I need the names of possessed operatives working with you for this plan to kill the Fravashis, of humans that can be possessed. Tyrion trembles with fear, not wanting to be placed inside of a small animal that is not even capable of speech. Shall I bring out the python? Gerald asks. Tyrion screams out, unable to take any more. The rat form of Chati squeals, chewing frantically at his cage. He is angered that his companion has lost his will. I will tell you whatever you want, just do not put me inside of any disgusting animals, Tyrion screams. Father Harlan turns to his assistant, satisfied. Dispose of the rat. We now have all that we need. As Gerald carries Chati away, the devil cur stops him. This time using Lydia's voice rather than his own. You have to get me out of here. Tears stream down from her tortured face. I don't belong here. I'm so scared and I just want to go home. Save it, devil. As soon as the Father says so, you too have a one-way ticket to becoming a rat. You cannot win. We are everywhere, Kerr shouts, dropping the facade. We have God on our side. Father Harlan greets his guest in the sanctuary of the House of the Shun. The chapel portion of the church is of typical aesthetic design to other sanctuaries. It is only in the basement areas where the great differences occur. Most of the congregation is unaware of what occurs just below them. Bishop Ganas, Father Harlan says, extending a warm welcome as the man enters. The bishop is flamboyantly dressed in an oversized golden tunic with white and purple trim. It is clear that he thinks highly of himself and his office. It is an honor to have you here as our guest. The honor is mine, Father, Bishop Ganas says, with a large, toothy grin. The man's charm and charisma are off the charts. He exudes an aura of approach that makes even strangers feel at ease. He smells of berries and is well-groomed without physical blemish. I have heard that a great many wonders are performed here. We do our best to conduct God's will. Sometimes the path is difficult, but we endure. Only sometimes? Bishop Ganas asks with a smile. Then you are doing better than most of the faith. Restoring humanity to his creation is a great reward in of itself. Each life we take back from Satan is a crucial blow. Bishop Ganas' reply seems to catch in his throat for a moment, as if out of irritation. Indeed it is. So much so that I am surprised that you have not been under constant attack from his forces. Father Harlan responds as modestly as he can without saying too much. He does not know this man well enough to trust him with their secrets. Satan assails us daily in many ways. Bishop Ganas nods. I would very much like to see what you have set up here. I'm considering the creation of several more such centers based on your success. Our success? Word has traveled of what we do here? Did you think that those of the afflicted that you have rehabilitated will remain quiet of their experiences? Many have begun to shout from the rooftops the great miracles performed on their behalf. The church has surely taken notice of so many instances of miracles mentioned of a single site. And the church officially approves of what we are doing? Officially? Bishop Ganas frowns. Officially, the church does not concede the existence of demonic possession. Unofficially, however, they would like to replicate your success to cure even more of the faithful. Deciding to show the bishop more in the hopes of saving more people from the devils all across the world, Father Harlan leads him downstairs. First, he is shown the rehabilitation dorms, where the formerly afflicted are helped with their recovery. Bishop Ganas is impressed, watching as numerous thin and frail-looking young men and women are helped with walking in order to retrain their muscles. The devils are not considerate of their host. A great deal of the afflicted are left fully or partially paralyzed once they are discarded. The power of the devils prevents them from noticing injuries or the effects of malnourishment. The bishop seems to consider this information for a moment before they continue. In the main area of the basement, dozens of the afflicted are restrained upon beds so that they may not hurt themselves or others. If we do not keep them restrained, the enhanced strength of the devils would be too much for even my skillful staff. Caring for the possessed is a skill that most would be unaware they even had, or needed, but without them, I would not be able to keep this place operational. The Devilnae are capable of magic. How are the afflicted unable to use spellcraft to free themselves? We employ useful powders and elixirs that subdue the magical abilities of the devils. Using magic against magic. That seems like a very slippery slope. You're not afraid of the dangers that magic may cause? I do not buy into most of the anti-magic propaganda spread by the church. Without these spells, we would be unable to perform our works. The Yazata gave humans magic originally. We just make sure that we use it for only what is absolutely necessary. Bishop Ganas seems to find the answer satisfactory, and the tour is continued. After several minutes, he is returned upstairs. I believe that I have seen quite a lot that will be influential in our future projects. I pray that our service will remain a blessing among the faithful. The bishop mingles with the church staff and the few congregation members that come in for daily prayers and confessional. When the bishop finally leaves, Father Harlan returns downstairs. Do you think that what Taryn told us about the bishop was true? Gerald asks. Father Harlan is unsure. He is certainly good at masking his true nature, if he is indeed a devil. I don't see why Taryn would lie about this particular man over others that we have verified and cured of their plague. Have you not asked yourself why the church is gathering so many of the afflicted together here rather than just exorcising them and sending them home? Gerald's answer is stifled as the very same question is gnawed at him. Having devoted 4 years to the church and its efforts, he has seen very few full exorcisms, but just enough to know that they are entirely possible. The bulk of the work they perform involves cataloging and tracing the ancestries of the afflicted. And what is told to them as efforts to pull Satan from their families by the roots like the weed he is. Yet after the information gathered from the devils themselves, they know a darker secret. The genealogical research is the true work, isn't it? The church doesn't wish to cure the possession at all. They seek to find relatives also prone to the devils. Father Harlan nods, finishing his fellow's train of thought for him, as he sees the distress written upon his face. They are learning who can potentially become vessels for possession beforehand. Bishop Ganas interrupts them, walking back down the stairs slowly. Both men back away in fright, having just seen the bishop out to his car personally minutes ago. You should have just continued to do the Lord's work, no questions asked, the bishop says, sliding a ceremonial dagger into his hand from his long sleeve. And which Lord is it truly that you wish to have us serve? Father Harlan angrily accused. Bishop Ganas laughs, his eyes flashing a deep shade of red. You're too nosy for your own good, Father. What is it that you've been having us do? Why are you collecting lists of potential vessels? The bishop uses the dagger to cut open his flowing robe and cast it to the floor. No need to further this game, he says with a shrug. Hell has a very long waiting list, I'm afraid. The choice vessels are reserved for high-ranking humans, such as politicians, CEOs, actors, actresses, and lawyers. And church officials, Father Harlan says with a growl, glaring at the non-man. Yes, Bishop Ganas chuckles, many other cardinals, priests, imams, sheiks, rabbis, and clerics. You would not believe the garbage we can convince you apes to believe. You find possession victims, and then you have us trace their ancestries to find more potential cloaks for you monsters to hide beneath? Gerald asks, catching on to the devil's plan. What do? Set up your friends with the bodies and take favors from them once they're in control? The bishop is momentarily stunned at how accurately his plan is being described, despite being set in motion for thousands of years. Money, land, political pull. How do you think we have turned mere beliefs into imaginary deities, into empires and militaristic nations? I have been selectively breeding human vessels for thousands of years. When two bloodlines, susceptible to possession, produce a child, that offspring becomes more valuable to us than gold or jewels. A potential vessel child, born of two vessel-ready parents, will grant its owner power beyond their original form, in a bond nearly impossible to fracture, even by magic. A vessel, such as this, will never decay or age, granting the spirit inside eternal power. Only an Anakim, such as this, may house a true devil in any manner of sustainability, though other spirits may possess humans who may only carry the bloodline of a vessel. Bishop Ganas releases his aura, finally revealing himself to be one of these monstrous fallen Yazata called the Devilnay. Anakim, Father Harlan questions, not recalling where he has heard the term before. The descendants of the Nephilim, the first hybrid beings. When the Yazata came to the earth to teach mankind of civilization, in order to raise them from their status as mere primates, many became smitten by the beauty of human females. The offspring of these unions were powerful monstrosities, feared and hated by heaven. It is through the bloodline of these abominations that we are now able to possess human vessels without burning through their bodies too quickly. Gerald begins to chant, closing his eyes and submitting himself to prayer. Despite the bishop's boasts of false religions created to mask the control of the Devilnay, he still believes in a just and righteous creator who shed his own blood to protect his spiritual children. Since learning of this grand scheme from other lesser devils they were able to exercise, the members of the House of the Shunned have prepared for this inevitable showdown with one of the project's higher-ranking officials. Despite their preparation, Gerald is not any less nervous. Smoke rises from the devil's arms, and he hisses in anger. With a flick of his wrist, waves of invisible energy knock Gerald over a table and into a row of empty stretchers and medical supplies. You will not exorcise me, human, the devil says. You may in the past have been able to eliminate the likes of lesser beings, but I am not in the same category as they. In my service within the choirs of the Seraphim, I belong to the 7th choir, as the Yazata known as Pagiel. Do you know anything about the different choirs? Each division serves specific tasks, and their members are chosen accordingly. Of all the choirs, the 7th consisted of the strongest warriors of all the others. Even low-ranking members of the 7th choir were comparable to officers of the other choirs. We were the elites, used only for the toughest missions. I was chosen by General Sataniel to sway the power of the 7th choir to his side. I have far too much work still to accomplish to be sent back. There are specific vessels that have been requested that I must finish preparing. Father Harlan moves to Pagiel's side, splashing his face with holy water. The devil howls in pain, stumbling back against the nearest bed and falling. I have been an architect of this pathetic human world for thousands of years. You worms will not stop me. Pagiel screams, black energy wings unfolding from his back and pushing away every bed nearby with an invisible force. Pagiel lifts Gerald into the air using telekinesis to hold him by the throat. The young man chokes, kicking his feet violently. "Let go of him!" Father Harlan shouts, holding out his dagger marked with engraved prayers. "Father, I am afraid that I will have to kill not only the two of you, but every member of your congregation. I cannot allow any of your practices to continue. Our plans are far too important for you to interfere with any longer." Father Harlan rushes, but he is no fighter and is knocked over a bed with a swipe of Pagiel's hand. The father crawls to his feet, blood running down his forehead. He looks around for his dagger. "Are you looking for this?" Pagiel asks, smiling as he holds the weapon suspended in the air with his powers. "Here, you can have it back." The devil sends the blade speeding at Father Harlan, who raises the knocked-over bed to intercept. Those cured of their possession hear the commotion and exit the room to check on the disturbance. Seeing the bishop manhandling their saviors, the people grab whatever they can and rush Pagiel. The devil is surprised, but easily swats eats away with waves of his free hand. The people stubbornly get back up and try again. "You filthy apes! I will make sure that each one of you is retaken as a host and tortured endlessly for the rest of your days." Pagiel shouts, irritated. The devil's concentration breaks, and Father Harlan runs at him from the side with a dagger. Pagiel turns his attention to the father, but receives a broken piece of wood to his gut for the lapse. The devil's eyes widen with shock, staring at the young woman before him. He tries to speak, but the edge of Father Harlan's dagger slides across his throat. Gerald drops to the floor, coughing. "Are you okay?" Lydia asks, crouching beside Gerald. The young man nods slowly. The two can only stare at each other for a moment. Pagiel drops to his knees, holding his throat. He tries to speak, but is unable to utter anything beyond wet gurgles. "We need to clean up down here," Father Harlan says, regaining his composure like nothing out of the ordinary happened. "We have many more devils to stop and afflicted to cure." Clear Springs, Florida, September 1st, 1998. "We learned everything we know about exorcism and preparing magical powders from Father Harlan," Gerald explains, finishing his story. "I stayed on as his understudy for several more years." He pauses, seeming sad. "In time, I grew too weary of the work and abandoned the cause altogether. I regret leaving him to face the devils alone. But if I had not, Lydia and I would never have had a life together. We never heard from him again after we left. I stayed, helping where I could until Gerald left," Lydia adds, hanging on her husband's arm. "By then your grandfather and I had become very close, so when he left, I followed." "You both knew about the devils and possession, but you ignored them so that you could go play house?" Jake is astonished. "We fell in love, and the house of the shunned was no place to start a family," Gerald explains. He does feel guilty, but does not regret his decision. Had he not left, they have not had their life together. "For all you knew, Father Harlan became possessed by a devil himself," Jake scoffs, If you had stayed, maybe you would have learned stronger exorcisms." "Don't blame all of your problems on us," Lydia says, offended. "If we hadn't made the decisions we did, neither you or your mother would ever have been born. And lots more innocent people would be alive. I'd rather I hadn't been born." Lydia smacks Jake across the cheek. He blinks, staring at her with surprise as his face reddens and tingles with a sharp, stinging sensation. "Stop that woe is me bullshit right now. I don't regret the decisions we made. Everything happens for a reason, even if we don't immediately see it. Instead of arguing about our bad choices, why don't we start discussing how we can change our current circumstances?" Lydia says, scolding her grandson. Jake nods, feeling ashamed that he disrespected his grandparents so badly. Who is he to question their motives when the choices that he has made have been far more dangerous? "Tell us what you know about Yamura and the world he comes from," Gerald says, sitting down as he awaits Jake's turn for storytelling. Absinthe, Indiana, September 1st, 1998. Several loud knocks resonate through the house as someone stands at the front door. The inside of the home is a wreck. Clothes lie strewn about the floor and draped over furniture. Unwashed dishes cover the tabletops and in stacks in every corner. A thick layer of dust sits upon everything. The past months have been terribly difficult for Ann Stewart. The previous summer, she had been informed by the police while at work that her husband Ian, along with a dozen of his co-workers, had gone missing. A body was never recovered, and she was left to juggle a night shift job at the gas station and the raising of her teenage son alone. Now that son is wanted by the police, and she cannot turn on the television or open a newspaper without seeing his face. Leaving abruptly, Jake escaped the authorities and fled the town in an instant. The only man left in Anne's life was gone. "Just a minute," Anne shouts, having spent the past few hours staring at photo albums and crying. Her eyes are bloodshot, and she tries to wipe the remaining tears away before answering the door. She checks out from the window, first to make sure that the visitor isn't a member of the scavenger press, bothering the grief-stricken mother for an interview. Instead of a reporter, she sees an olive-skinned woman in her early to mid-30s, standing alone at her door. Anne instantly feels a strange connection to the woman as she stares into her eyes. In them, she sees a kindred spirit, who has also endured great pain and loss. The woman's eyes are ringed from a lack of sleep, and the flesh on her arms and face seems gaunt, and barely clinging to her bones at all. "May I help you?" Anne asks, cracking the door open, yet leaving the lock latched. "Ann Stewart," the woman states, not asks. She's foreign, but I can't tell from where, Anne thinks, noticing the thick Israeli accent of the woman. "I am. And you are?" "Lior Nadav. May I come inside and speak with you for a few moments?" Anne senses a darker tone in the woman's voice and feels a shiver run throughout her body. "About?" "Your son. I believe I can clarify the situation to you better than the police have, if you'll listen to me for a few minutes." Something about this woman is wrong. All of Anne's instincts about her shout at her to close the door and call 911. "What do you know about my son?" Leora's eyes suddenly flash red, and she cuts down through the chain, keeping the door locked in an instant with her claw-like nails. With a forceful push against the door, Anne is shoved to her back, and Leora enters the home before shutting it behind herself. "He is like me, something so much greater than a human," Leora grins, exposing elongated fangs. Anne scrambles backwards in terror, trying to gain her wits. She glances to her right, towards the telephone, but Leora already has it grasped in her hands, the cord hanging limply from the wall. "I'm afraid that no one will be coming to help you, my dear." First Ian, then Jake. Now me. Anne panics, fearing her own end is seconds away. "Who are you, really?" She feels the handle of the hot iron poker lying beside the wood stove behind her. She wraps her fingers around it and swings, catching Leora across the face. Leora stumbles, the iron ripping open her right cheek. Blood pours down her face, and pain floods the woman's senses. Breaking her concentration, the glamour concealing Lior's decayed form dissolves, and she is revealed in all of her hideousness. Careless, she thinks, trying to steady herself. She may just be human, but they have that annoyingly strong urge of self-preservation. Lior touches her index finger to her cheek and whispers an incantation as she calls forth the magical symbols needed to perform the spell in her mind. Sendatu Heles. She chants as the wound closes up and the bleeding ceases. Getting to her feet, Anne sprints towards the rear exit of her house. She nearly falls twice, tripping over piles of dirty laundry, but she is able to stay on her feet and continue running. Daylight floods in as she throws the door open and tumbles over the porch steps and onto the grass. A stinging pain nags her from her bloodied knees, but she ignores it and quickly climbs back to her feet. She starts for her car, but is forced to alter her plan as soon as she remembers that her keys are still inside the house in the pocket of her black work slacks. Lior staggers to the doorway, barely managing to catch Anne's movement in the corner of her eye as the woman makes a run for her nearest neighbor's home. Somehow, she assumed this would be a lot easier than it's turning out. Anne Stewart is no warrior, just a widow, consumed with the grief of losing her husband and being abandoned by her serial killer son. Instead, the woman is proving to test the limits of her very patience and endurance. Garuda Nostra, Lior growls, raising her hand and calling forth the glyphs for the air manipulation spell inside of her mind. Controlling the element like a puppeteer, she is able to pull on each wind stream, manipulating its intensity and direction. A strong wind whips around Anne's legs and tosses her to the grass. She rolls with the fall and is back on her feet almost instantly, still continuing her desperate escape. Lior repeats her spell, this time driving the winds upwards into Anne's chin and sternum, and throwing the woman to her back. Anne writhes in pain, gasping for air, but Lior encircles her face with strong thrashing winds to hold her in place. You are a very feisty one, Lior says, placing one foot on Anne's chest, as she ceases the winds. You will be a much better host for me than this decayed academic. She continues, looking down at her own body that has begun to deteriorate seriously over the past few years. Lior has served me well, yet I will require your body if I am to hunt down your son and my brother. Darkness overtakes Anne as she loses her struggle to remain conscious. When she awakens, she will be at Inyana's mercy, and she has little. The black sedan with Illinois plates blocks the driveway where Rusty usually pulls his bike into before walking it into the garage. The teen is drenched in sweat, having completed a grueling 5-mile speed ride. He walks around the back of the house, but before he can go inside and slip off his wet clothes, he hears the sound of glass breaking, and several men's voices speaking loudly. Bursting through the back door with clenched fists, Rusty finds 3 men in crisp black suits, standing in the kitchen with his father. The elder Rigsby does not look entertained by the men's presence in his home. It's all right, son, go take a shower, Gator says. Rusty quickly notes blood on his father's knuckles and the remnants of a shattered drinking glass on the floor. We're just catching up with your old man, one of the suits says, named Daniel Lucas. We used to work side by side, a long time ago. Rusty's eyes shift to each man in turn, observing a deep cut on the cheek of one of them. He smiles, assuming his father smashed the glass against the man's face. The boy nods and exits, walking quietly down the hall so that he can eavesdrop as much as possible. That must have been Rusty, your youngest, the man with the bleeding cheek says. Where are your other boys? Mitch and Derek, wasn't it? Balling his fists in anger, Gator tenses every muscle in his body to prevent himself from leaping onto Lucas and tearing his arms off in order to beat him to death with the appendages. Easy, cowboy, Lucas says. We're not here to pick a fight with you. We both know that if they wanted you or your family harmed, this conversation would not be happening. The old fox sent us here to try and get your assistance with something. He has a hell of a lot of respect for you, you know. Gator exhales loudly, with a snort, and narrows his eyes with even more suspicion. Conic Fox wouldn't have sent all of you people to speak with me, Gator says, alluding to a past history with Lucas. In my years with Silver Fox, there wasn't a single mission I was paired with you that I didn't want to shoot you more than our target. How noble of you, Lucas growls, now balling his own fists. The oldest of the men, Jack Treese, is forced to step between them, pushing Lucas back with his arm. Things are bad, Gator, Treese says, a tone of seriousness settling upon the war-hardened veteran. Each scar on the man's face tells a tale, and dozens of them cover it. Right now, there are 6 other regularly active Silver Fox operatives besides us. Last week, 3 entire teams were wiped out in succession. Finnick, Velix, and even Pampas couldn't handle the mission and were slaughtered. Gator is suddenly speechless, as the names of several of his former teammates bring with them a flood of painful memories, horrors they faced together, that were long ago shut up behind mental walls, now come clawing to the surface, and he is forced to use every bit of his willpower to keep his composure. Who's behind it? Were they ambushed? What happened? Gator's questions come out in rapid fire too quickly to be answered in time. Intel is scarce. Dion Brooks was leading Finnick team to investigate rumors of a terrorist cell using an enhanced biological weapon. We lost contact with them almost immediately. By the time Arctic team's boots were on the ground, all that was left were the bodies of Finnick team in a burned-down warehouse. While Arctic was playing cleanup, Velix team engaged a suspected cabal of demoniacs. It should have been a routine hit, but they reported one of the possessed using advanced magic to summon one of the saints. We lost all contact after that. All across the world, our teams are being dropped off by what should be easy missions. Something much bigger is at play, Lucas says, swallowing his own pride and dislike for Gator. That's why Fox sent us to try and coax you back out of retirement. He needs his best, suited back up and out in the field if we're going to stop the bleeding. Gator waits, taking everything in and allowing the information to digest. He's in his 40s now, married and with children. He can't be jumping out of helicopters and running headfirst into firefights with maniacs anymore, some of which aren't even human. What happened to Gray and Red teams? Gator asks, knowing that if they need him to return, the 2 primary units must also be inactive. You really don't want to know, Lucas cuts in. His voice is filled with his own disbelief, yet he couldn't be more sure of the information's validity. I do, Gator says, tensing up again. In his mind, the images of thousands of battles play out. Every monstrous person or thing taken down by Gator's teams now claws at his thoughts. Which horrific enemy has resurfaced to terrorize the world now? I can't give you my answer unless I have all the details. Treese nods, giving Lucas the go-ahead to elaborate. They were obliterated by Yazata, an angel. Gator is unable to make a sound in response. Of all the demons, mutated humans, necromancers, ghouls, and other monsters that he has faced, an angel has never been before among that list. Are you sure? I just thought they were a bedtime story devils told each other to feel better about themselves, Gator says finally, reassuring themselves of this great time when they were beings that were bright, shiny demigods and not total pieces of dog shit. They're completely real and more fearsome than anything we've ever seen before. They were wearing combat cams, but most of the angels' movements were just too damn fast to detect. It seemed to teleport around the damned room, hacking at our men who never stood a chance. Arctic team managed to engage the target sometime later, but didn't fare much better. All they were able to accomplish was a single knife cut to an unprotected portion of its arm. The team sustained heavy losses, but one operative did survive to bring us back a blood sample. The nerds have been working non-stop to learn all they can about the blood. Gator's eyes drift to his own retired K-bar knife, hanging on the wall above his gun rack. The 4-inch blade seems to call out to him in longing. Do they think the appearance of this angel is what is causing all the aberrations to act up more than usual? Gator asks. Can't say for sure yet, but they have been searching for other signs tied to its appearance, Earthquakes, mass hysteria, volcanic activity, you know, the classics. Supposing I agreed, we aren't engaging the Yazata until the nerds come up with something to give us an edge. We can't fight something that can bounce in and out of our field of perception without a plan. Could no one trace its aura while it was fading out? It was too fast. From what we retrieved from their combat camps, the entire fight with the Fennec team lasted just over 2.5 minutes. The Angel attacked again unexpectedly during cleanup, and Arctic team was down to 6 men in the first minute. Captain Ronnie Hilliard only survived when the bastard retreated. Hilliard scored a lucky hit to its arm, which seemed to make it panic. The Angel didn't seem to remember what pain was like and freaked out at the sight of its own blood. It panicked and fled even though it had the clear advantage. That's the first good news I've heard. Let's give it a reason to continue to fear us. Gator has already unconsciously taken his blade off the wall and slid it into his boot. Angel or not, I'm going to roast this duck for all of our fallen brothers. Tree smiles with triumph. Recruiting a legend like Gator Rigsby back into the fold will not only bolster morale, it will improve their overall chances for success. That's the kind of talk I came here for. We need to leave quickly, so make your arrangements now. Gator nods, walking the men to the door. We'll be parked uptown behind the defunct gas station. The sooner we get on the road, the sooner we can get a hold of this biblical bastard and flay him, Lucas says. We'll go over the rest of what we know on the flight to Arizona. Arizona? Gator asks, surprised. That's where Hilliard's team went down in the last known location of the Yazata. We've not determined why it was there, but we have our people working around the clock to get us that information. With any luck, it will be waiting for us when we arrive. Turtle Rock, Arizona. Daniel Ramos pops the hood of the young woman's truck. An oversized red giant and gas-guzzling behemoth of a vehicle, it's more of a statement than a practical of daily use. He walks around the back of the truck to check the lights. Left turn signal, Ramos says, instructing the owner of the truck to initiate each light. Now the right. Okay, hit the brakes. He returns to the front and begins to look at the fuses. When was the last time you had a fuse changed? The woman gives him a puzzled look. Wait, you mean there's a fuse box in my truck? Like the kind in my house? Ramos sighs. He deals with all kinds of people as a mechanic. Yeah, fuses make your lights function. We'll swap out the fuses one by one and see if that brings your lights back on. A bright light fills the garage, causing both Ramos and the young woman to shield their eyes. The sounding of a horn follows the light, reaching a loud roar that shatters the windows of the truck and bursts multiple fluid containers and bulbs. The woman falls to the floor amidst the glass, screaming out in terror. Clad in faded armor that is covered with deep scratches and dents millennia old, the Grigori Yazata deserter, called Benahil, materializes inside of the garage. Benahil's white blonde hair is pulled back into a ponytail and tied with a cord of organic rope similar to hemp. The Yazata's left eye is decorated by a thick scar above and below, while the eye itself is whited out and dead, lost long ago in battle. Ramos's vision slowly returns, but his hearing remains blocked by constant ringing. David Castor Ramos, son of Vicente Jorge Ramos, and Sierra Luisa Walker, Benahil says, unraveling an old-looking parchment. The paper is brown and torn in many places. The Yazata does not wait for confirmation, instead drawing his diamond-bladed sword. Please don't kill us, whoever you are, Ramos begs, consumed by fear. Benahil glances down at Ramos, as if he were not even looking at him before. The Yazata grins, filling Ramos with even greater terror. Who are you, and why do you dare draw your blade upon this human? The Yazata, called Yisrael, asks as he appears between them. This? Benahil asks, looking at his own weapon. This is for you, not the human. Yisrael draws his sword, but not fast enough. Before the blade can be unsheathed, Benahil's wrist snaps, and his sword flashes across the Fravashi's guardian's throat. A golden glow escapes from the wound, and Yisrael stares forward in disbelief for a moment, before his head separates, and his body explodes into a brilliant light. Ramos cowers, trying to crawl beneath his truck for protection. "Fear not, little ape," Benahil says, sheathing his sword. "My role is liberator, not butcher. I have freed you of your constant spy. My former brethren are eavesdroppers and peeping toms. It is better for you that your deeds go unnoticed." With that, the rogue Yazata teleports away in a flash of light. Benahil scratches off another Fravashi's guardian from his list. Working as an operative of the great plan of the Devilnay, the Yazata hunts down the protectors of vessel-ready humans, so that they may become easy real estate for the visiting spirits. Hundreds of his own kind has he slain, freeing tens of thousands of humans from Fravashi's protection. Without a guardian, humans that are vessel-ready will have no recourse when stalked by the spirit of a Devilnay. The forces of the devils are amassing, and due to his efforts in large part, more and more bodies are lined up for them to inhabit when the time comes. Studying his lists, Benahil determines that the state of Arizona has 14 remaining Fravashi's guardians protecting their population. He finds it amusing that the Yazata organize highly along the human-defined lines of states and countries. The bureaucracy of the Yazata is one of the many things they taught mankind. Held up in the warehouse that stores wooden pallets, Benahil stages himself before the next assault. He likes having a single position to operate from in each area, especially after running into those humans from the secretive Silver Fox group. Benahil had never heard of the mysterious global organization until one of his early targets brought them into conflict with each other. The humans were skilled, and had he not had the element of surprise, a more prepared group may have proven dangerous. It was obvious the humans had never seen a Yazata before, and the weapons they attacked him with were strange and geared towards other creatures. A pale, sickly figure enters the warehouse, reminding Benahil why he must stage his attacks from a common area. Because of the nature of Yazatan Shunkonido teleportation, they are difficult to track. The Devil's currently running the great plan to free up all vessel-ready humans insisted upon him being reachable, should they need to modify or update standing operation orders. "Benny," the visitor says with a hiss. "Benahil," the Yazata corrects with a huff. The visitor seems amused. "I find it so strange that you hold on to your slave name." "What do you want, Oscar?" Benahil recognizes the Devil, even while inside of a new host. "I am trying to liberate vessels for your plans, and you are burning through them like kindling." Oscar shrugs. "Apologies. I had to put these bodies in some very tight situations. As powerful as any of us may be, we cannot fight all of our battles coming out unscathed. Humans are so very weak. Again I ask, why have you come? I pray that you are not altering our conditions once more." "I'm insulted," Oscar laughs. "Here I come with offerings of our friendship, and all I receive in return are hateful accusations." Benahil draws his sword in agitation. He has no fondness for the sleazy devil, but his assistance is necessary if he wishes to complete his mission. "Easy," Oscar says, holding out his hands. "Let me get straight to the point." He whistles for two of his men to enter, dragging between them a severely beaten wreck of a man. "What is this?" Benahil asked with caution, sword still drawn. He does not like surprises. "When you got jumped the other day, you did not know whom your attackers were." "Silver Fox," Benahil replies. "I found out on my own." "Ah, but we found one who really likes to talk," Oscar says, nodding towards his demoniac allies. One of the demoniacs jabs a stun gun into the prisoner's ribs, causing him to scream out in pain. Benahil sheathes his sword, much to Oscar's pleasure. Oscar kneels beside the captive, taking his face into his hand, forcefully. "Agent Robert Hill. Meet Benahil." He emphasizes the word agent. "You captured a Fox operative alive?" "I did," Oscar nods. "Their forces are spread so very thin at the moment. So much so that their B team is currently on the field. Greenhorn agents such as Mr. Hill here Haven't been in play long enough to really build that loyalty that is essential to running a secretive operation. Using Shukanito, Benahil teleports inches from Agent Hill and lowers his sword to the man's face. Tell me what you know. Does your organization know who I am? Agent Hill slowly shakes his head. The man's face is purple with bruises and severely swollen. Dry blood covers his skin. Not who, but they do know what you are. They didn't at first, but the geeks are really good at their research. Geeks? I'm not familiar with that term. Support personnel, very smart. Benahil nods. What knowledge have they discovered pertaining to Yazata? You're the only one that anyone in Silver Fox has ever encountered, so they're relying heavily on lore. The Yazata pauses, trying to recall what kind of lore exists on divine beings. Various religion texts mention them, but mostly as messengers. If any of his former brethren have in the past been careless, humans may have more information than he is aware of. What manner of lore? Relative size, appearance, ability to teleport and cast magic. They also know that your swords are the most effective weapons against you, but have been unable to locate any thus far. That is still more than Benahil expected any humans to know, and he becomes agitated. He is sure that somewhere on Earth exists the sword of a slain Yazata. His kind are not invincible, and probably all but guarantees that one has been killed by humans before. Your numbers are low? Benahil asks. Every supernatural creature we know to exist, and even ones we didn't, have been rising up with alarming frequency. Most of our teams have been wiped out. Cadets like me were moved up to fill vacancies while recruiting efforts have been kicked into overdrive. Do you have any more operatives in this state? No, Hill says, shaking his head. I was being called in to meet with a field team out in California. When we were hit by them, he gestures towards the demoniacs and Asuka. Benahil glares at the devil. You should have allowed him to reach the others so that we could have a location on them. And you should have not turned tail and ran because a human managed to scratch you. Because of your cowardice, you allowed for a survivor to reach his allies alive. Do not put the blame solely at my feet. Whipping his sword around, Benahil rests it against Asuka's shoulder. Do not forget that you are within a body of a human. I am not. Asuka tenses, trying not to move. Okay, I get your point. Benahil presses the edge of his blade until it draws blood. Do you? Is there anything else you'd like to know? Asuka asks. Shaking his head, Benahil removes his sword. What are you going to do to me? Hill asks, his fear rising. Interesting thought, Asuka moves. What should we do with you? Benahil sheathes his sword and begins to walk away. Do with him what you will. I have no further need for him. Asuka smiles, snapping his fingers and causing Hill's neck to break with a sickening sound. How many Fravishes remain in this area? 14. Benahil hands Asuka his list of vessels that have already been liberated from the protection of their guardian angels. These humans are ready for your immediate needs. Excellent, Asuka smiles, taking the list. You'll make many lonely spirits very happy. If you come across any more Silver Fox agents, do not hesitate to destroy them. We cannot tolerate any organized response to our efforts. You worry too much, Asuka says, holding up a hand as he makes his way towards the exit. These are humans we're dealing with, you know. Nothing to fear. Give me control of your body. The voice cuts through the darkness and stirs Anne to alertness. She awakens to find herself strapped to a chair in her own bedroom, with that mysterious red-eyed woman standing over her. There are two ways for us to proceed, Inyana says. You can voluntarily give control of your body to me, or I can find a blood relative of yours and bleed them out for the ritual. Either way, I still will take possession over you. Do you wish for the death of an innocent relative to be a part of these events? Anne cannot form an answer. The terror gripping the woman and the confusion surrounding her situation is far too great. I would try and persuade you, Inyana whispers, leaning in close, but I cannot have your body damaged if it is to be mine. Lior has served Inyana well as her vessel for the past 6 years, but the ritual performed by Riccolo was imperfect. Instead of selecting a virgin blood relative, her mother was brought in as the sacrifice. Slowly, Inyana's spirit has been eating away at her own body, and if a new vessel is not selected soon, this one will be destroyed, and she too will perish. The followers of my foolish brother did not perform their ritual correctly either. None of the reports I have read or heard have made any mention of this vessel's relatives being killed around the same time as Yamura's appearance. It may be months or years, but he too will be forced to find a new host. If you will not cooperate, I shall be forced to kill your kin one by one until you offer your body to me. Inyana walks over to the bookshelf and pulls down a book bound with a red leather cover. She flips through the pages of photographs, smiling. Pictures of happy children and proud adults beaming with love fill the albums, and she chuckles to herself. I can kill each and every one of them if I wish. She removes a photo of a curly-haired girl no older than 3. I can start with this one, if you like. That's me, Anne whispers, finally finding her courage. Start and finish there. Inyana crushes the photo in her hand, angered. I cannot kill you, my dear. A human who is able to act as a vessel for other spirits is uncommon. This trait, however, is inherited. Because I know that your son is a possessed vessel, I am wagering that you too will be a suitable host. Possession? Anne is again filled with anxiety and confusion. Could her son truly be possessed by some evil spirit that has led him to murder people? That would make the acceptance of this reality in his actions much more palpable than the denial and escape through alcohol that she has been experiencing. She must think quickly while her captor is being so forthcoming with information. If she were able to escape now, she could try and find a way to get to her son and help him. If it's inherited, who's to say that he didn't get it from his dead father? Anne asks, slowly rotating her wrists against the straps, binding her in hopes of loosening them. Her skin becomes raw, but she ignores it and continues to work against her restraints. Call it an educated guess. Inyana grows impatient with Anne's reluctance. She cannot blame her. No one wants to become a slave in their own body. But she cannot proceed with her plans without a new vessel. Outside of Absinthe, Indiana. It's good to have a legend like you on board, says one of the agents in the back seat as Gator transfers vehicles outside of town. Lucas and 2 other agents leave first in the lead vehicle, while Treese Gator and Agent Daniel Kente take the second. Whatever you've heard, I'm sure half of it isn't true. Gator laughs, tossing his gym bag onto the back seat. Before buckling in, he makes sure that Treese gives him a sidearm to hold onto. The familiar steel of the gun brings back many memories that Gator long thought buried. Support will be shit for this mission, I'm sorry to say, Treese explains, getting into the passenger seat of the vehicle and nodding towards the driver to go ahead. With our field teams decimated, we only have a handful of active agents. He looks back and nods towards Kente. Most of what we do have are new recruits that were headhunted from the FBI, SWAT, and other various special forces. Most of the kids have never even seen a non-human entity, let alone garner any experience in combat. I saw a ghost one time at my aunt's, Kente says. At least I think I did. It was one of those peripheral things. Treese looks to Gator and shrugs as the veteran has a look on his face like he wants to push the kid out of the vehicle. I bet you never imagined going monster hunting when you joined the military, Gator asks. When Old Man Fox recruited me from the SEALs, I thought I was just joining some spec ops team to go off on some nasty people the rest of the world did not want associated with the red, white, and blue. I thought I was on some kind of hidden camera show when I learned that my first mission was going to face off against honest-to-God witches. I can't do a lick of magic myself, but I'll tell you it's hard to cast a spell with 4 inches of surgical steel buried in your gut. He grins, gruesomely recalling some battle long past. Kente shakes his head. I'm barely out of training. I really did not know what was in store for me. Now we're headed to face an angel. He laughs uncomfortably. My mother is really devout. She wouldn't be too happy right now. Believing in God don't mean that some of his creations aren't pieces of shit, Gator laughs. Angel or not, it's a murderer, and we're going to take it out. Yeah, Kente agrees. Still seems sacrilegious. Kid, if God himself fucked with my team, I would shoot him right in the face. Kente shivers, believing Gator's statement. Gator's expression lightens. I don't think that's something we have to worry about. When push comes to shove, I think he's on our side. Seeing the horrors I've seen, you have to hold on to your faith or you'll go mad. Why would an angel be killing people anyways? Is that something that you've run across before? Gator shakes his head. Nope, it's all new to me. Never seen an actual angel before. I'd heard rumors that they existed, but they are more reclusive than the Loch Ness Monster. Is that real? Kente's eyes widen. That? Nah, that's just some Scooby-Doo shit to keep tourism going. Most of the real lake creatures are found up in Canada. They like the isolation. I think I'm going to be sick. Kente becomes pale. The world he knows is changing too quickly for him to keep up. Gator laughs, slapping the young recruit on the shoulder. Best way to deal with it is to not discount anything as real. Then if you see it, you won't be surprised. Is there anything that isn't real? Professional wrestling, but I still enjoy it. Gator shrugs. If the Angel took out 2 full teams with only 1 survivor, how are we going to be expected to stop it? Kente asks, returning to the topic at hand. Gator tries to ease his nervousness, but first mission butterflies are par for the course. The other teams had dick for intel. We at least know what we'll be up against. In this field, that difference means a hell of a lot. Not knowing what's going to happen, Kente whispers. It's overwhelming. I once strangled a Yowie to death with my bare hands after I ran out of ammo. We were fighting over a rations box that got airdropped in. The damn thing got a jump on me after smelling the MREs. We wrestled for nearly an hour before I choked the bastard out. Motherfucker wasn't even the target. We were hunting a shaman who was moonlighting as an arms dealer selling necromance soldiers to North Korea, Gator says, upping the kid's story exponentially. Kente leans forward to Treese in the front seat and whispers, What's a Yowie? Both Gator and Treese laugh heartily. Boy, this'll be fun. I'm taking a bunch of virgins on a field trip to the whorehouse, Gator sighs. Treese pats Kente on the shoulder. You're gonna have to hit the ground running and learn fast, kid. Gator here isn't much of a teacher. Gator raises his pistol, sighting it in. I'm more of the teach by doing type.